So we're going to pick up today with lesson 10.2 on multiplying polynomials by monomials. We're going to continue to focus on solving equations involving the product of a monomial and a polynomial, which you guys now know is just the distributive property. And we're going to focus again on solving the equations that involve this, and also looking at equations that have variables on each side of the equal sign and how we go about solving those. You guys know this, but it's going to be a little review. So we'll take a look at another one of our examples here. This is solving the equation, and it involves a monomial, which is 6 times the binomial y minus 9. So there's your product of a monomial and a polynomial right there. That's why it fits into what we're talking about. This actually has variables on each side of the equal sign. So we're going to review this process of solving. Now, I gave you that step-by-step procedure and how to solve equations. And the first thing I said is you want to simplify each side of the equal sign. So on the left side, we want to distribute. We want to distribute the 6 through the parentheses. That's multiplying a monomial by a binomial. So we're going to do 6 times y, which is 6y. We're going to do 6 times negative 9, which is negative 54. And then the right side is already as simplified as it gets. It's just 8y minus 36. So on the left side of my equal sign, I have 2 terms. They are not like terms. So that's as simple as I can write it. On the right side of my equal sign, I have 2 terms. They are not like terms. So this is as simple as we can write it. It's time to solve. Now, the second part was of your process is to isolate the variable term. Well, when we have variable terms on each side of the equal sign, the first thing we got to do is eliminate one of them so that we only have one variable term remaining. So what we'll do here is subtract a 6y from each side of the equation. Each side of the equal sign here, we subtract 6y. Now, you put it together with its like term. So 6y minus 6y, that's the reason we did this, is to make this a 0, which we will get that. So we'll have a negative 54 on the left. Don't miss that minus sign, negative 54. And then 8y minus 6y is 2y, and I still have minus 36. So by subtracting 6y, I've eliminated one of the variable terms, and now 2y is the only variable term I have. So now we want to isolate the 2y. So that means I want to make this negative 36 become a 0. I do that by adding 36 to both sides. Negative 36 plus positive 36, that's 0. That's why we did it. Negative 54 plus 36 is going to be negative 18. So I got negative 18 now equals 2y. So I now have the variable term isolated. I now want to make the coefficient become a 1. Because y is being multiplied by 2, I'm going to divide each side by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times y is y. That isolates the variable term. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. Y equals negative 9 is my solution. Okay, so I'm going to look at a couple more examples. They get a little bit more detailed because there's more terms and there's more distributive properties that to mix in here. Let's take a look at the next one here. So as you look at this one, your equal sign divides your equation into 2 halves. The left side of my equation, I have a distributive property I need to do. And then I'm going to have to simplify with some like terms. On the right side, I also have a distributive property that needs to be done. And I'm going to have to do some simplifying after that. So the first step here is to begin our distributive property process. So again, this is multiplying a monomial, negative 2 times a binomial. So let's go ahead and do that. Negative 2 times negative 8v is 16v. Negative 2 times the positive 4 is negative 8. And then this minus v is just still over here on this side of the equal sign with these 2 terms. So this is all, these 3 terms are now on the left side. Okay, let's move to the right. Distribute this 5 through the parentheses. So 5 times v is 5v. And then 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And then this minus 3 is tacked on the end here, okay, because it's a term on the right side. So now going back here to the left side, I have 3 terms, 16v, negative 8, negative v. Okay, these are like terms. They're on the same side of the equal sign. They're like terms, so we're going to combine those. So negative 16 and negative 1, okay, that'll give us 15v. And then I still got minus 8 on the left side. Okay, on the right side, I have three terms, 5v, negative 20, negative 3. And now my constants, my numbers are the like terms. Okay, well, negative 20 and a negative 3 is going to give us a negative 23. So 5v minus 23 is what the right side will simplify to. Okay, so now we've distributed, we've combined like terms, we've worked our problem down so that we have two terms on the left. They are not like terms, and two terms on the right. They are not like terms. So now we're ready to solve. Again, I find myself with a variable term on each side of the equal sign. When we have this case, we need to make one of them a 0. So we only have one to work with. So what we're going to do is I'm going to subtract a 5v from both sides. Okay. When I subtract a 5v from 5v, that's 0. That's why we did it. And then 15v minus 5v, that'll give us 10v minus 8 equals negative 23. Okay, this became a 0. I was left with negative 23. So now I only have one variable term. It's the 10v. I want to isolate it. I want to get it by itself. So that means I got to make this become a 0. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Okay, negative 8, positive 8, that's a 0. Negative 23 plus 8 is negative 15. Okay, so now I got my variable term over here by itself. Now I want to make the coefficient, which is now 10, I want to make that become a 1. How do we do it? We divide by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1, and 1 times v is v. Now over here, you can reduce the fraction. If you divide them both by a 5, you'll get negative 3 over 2, or you could write it as a decimal, negative 1.5. The only time I would suggest writing it as a decimal is when it terminates. That means the decimal ends. You get a clear-cut answer. This isn't a repeating number. If it's a repeating number, leave it as a fraction. It's just easier. Okay? All right, so there's the example of a little bit more complex version. I have one more of those to show you just to kind of review process. All right, so as you look at this one, here's our equal sign. So this is the left side of the equation, and I'm going to have to distribute a negative 3 here to break this apart. On the right side, I have 2x, negative 5 plus, and then I have 2 times this quantity. So I'm going to have to distribute this through this set of parentheses. And then we can continue to simplify from there. So first things first, distribute the negative 3 through. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times 1 is minus 3 or negative 3. Okay, now on the right side, this 2x minus 5 is going to still be there, right? And I'm going to distribute the 2 through this parenthesis and add it to the list of terms on the right side. So 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times the 4 is 8. And now when you look at this, my left side has 2 terms, and they're not like terms, so that's as simplified as I can make it. The right side actually has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, and it has some like terms that we want to combine before we start our solving process. All right, so the next process here is going to be to simplify the right side of my equation. Okay, so the left side will stay as is. The right side, now I got 2x and 10x. These are on the same side of the equal sign, so we're going to combine them together. So 2x and 10x, that's 12x. And then the other like terms are the numbers, the constants. Negative 5 and 8, that's plus 3. So the right side is now 12x plus 3. The left side is negative 3x minus 3. Okay, so we find ourselves with variable terms on each side of the equal sign. We can't have that. So we got to make one of them a 0. I'm going to add a 3x to both sides of the equal sign. That's going to make this one a 0. And then 12x plus 3x, that'll give me 15x. So this is 0. So I got negative 3 on the left side. 15x plus 3, bring the plus 3 down. Okay. Now I want to isolate my 15x. I want to get it by itself, so I got to get rid of this. So I'm going to subtract a 3 from both sides. 3 minus 3 is 0. That's gone. Negative 3 minus 3. Now be careful. Negative 3 minus 3 is really negative 3 plus negative 3. That's negative 6. Okay. So I get negative 6 equals 15x. So I've isolated the variable term. Now I want to make the coefficient a 1. So we're going to divide each side by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1. Now this I'm just going to reduce to negative 2/5. So negative 2/5 equals x. Or we could say negative 0.4 equals x. All right. So stick to the process that I'm showing you as far as how to go through solving. It's very step by step. Simplify each side of the equation, combine like terms, isolate your variable. Just go through that step by step process, and I think you'll have a lot of success with this. Okay. So you're going to have more questions on solving equations with this monomial time polynomial on Alex tonight. Pretty straightforward. Make sure you're writing them down and working the process through. It helps to see it. All right. All right. I'll let you get at it.